Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. This week was quite busy with all the work and the new content that I was actually working on to share it with you guys this week. As you know, this last few weeks we have been working on these Solarpunk World buildings, starting from like a landscape or aerial shot to a final keyframe and to a vehicle as well. So I thought like, maybe I can use all those visual development and start working on something different. And it's been a while since I worked in Unreal, so I decided to use Unreal this week and also use a different hat and put this on. So in the next 30 minutes or so, I'll walk you guys through my work process in making a VR scene to inspect our car and create an atmosphere for us to get immersed with the world that we have built, including some blueprints and some workflows about how I, as a concept artist, use Unreal and virtual reality to direct my scenes and direct the art that I'm actually making. So we can jump in, I guess. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Leave some comments down below. We are more than 200 people now. Thank you guys for all your support, and thank you for being here. And I hope you will enjoy the next 30 minutes. And yeah, we'll see you there. So to start from, I decided to make a whole landscape, and there's actually a landscape tool in Unreal, and it's actually quite intuitive as well. It's very easy to use, it's very accessible. I'll definitely recommend you guys to use it somehow and experience it by yourself. This is going to be like quite basic because I'll be filling the whole section that I'll be building the experience with some mega scans. This is just going to be a backdrop and something to have in our hands to start with. And this is also important for me to be immersed with the environment on the get-go and be ready for it. And I was using all those Megascans assets in the library. Basically, I'm using most of the Megascans library, and in the end I'll also be using the vehicle set of Epic on Fab. I just migrated into my scene and used the materials there for the vehicle. Right now everything's quite flat. I just exported the GL. I think this is an FBX file, but eventually I will show you guys how I have actually imported the animation as well for a specific case. I'm currently using Megascans library. It has Unreal has a bridge inside, and I can directly import the assets into the scene and just play around with them. I'm using high resolution, not highest, nor nanite. I think nanite could work for this case because there's a lot of like assets that are repeating, and it will be slightly more performant, I guess, but it's a very small scene, so I didn't really go way too nitpicky about it. Actually, what I want to do, I actually have created like a very quick storyboard in the start, but it's very rough and it was already on the sketchbook, and I just didn't really pay attention to the detail and like how it would look exactly. I just want to put something in there just to think about what I can have in the scene and like how it might look like overall. what I want to do here is to create a confined scene. It's like circular area almost, where we can just go around, maybe see the car in the start and just get close to it, feel it like up close, and get immersed with the environment that I have worked on in the past few weeks. That's why we actually have done such VizDev stuff, including the vehicle and the environment. Everything is leading up to a point of production, where our concepts will go through and they will be used for like reference purposes, mood purposes, or yeah, all things else. So yeah, I'm just I got distracted. Sorry. So I'm starting to set the mood a little bit. I'm playing around with the sun direction and the skybox a little bit, and get the same atmosphere as I have in the key art that I've done in the last week, which was quite like blue cyan-ish, and it's kind of moody, has a lot of fog volume there, and the contrast is, it's quite low-key scene actually. That's why I'm using a lot of like atmosphere, volumetrics. Thankfully, volumetrics work so well in VR. It wasn't like this, I guess, like a few years back. And I'm using a lot of post-processing actually. Post-processing does a lot of job for us. You will see the difference in a bit, and you will also see the difference whenever I go outside of the post-processing volume, and there's a lot of like exposure outside, and I just mitigated inside the post-process, so I will get this oomph of the sun, but still it's dark and contrasty enough for us to have the mood that's closer to what we had from the last week. I'm just playing around with the values right now. I don't know much about Unreal, to be honest. I'm not an expert, and I'm not here as an expert. I'm just a concept artist who has like a lot of tools in their shed, and I just know only the amount that is actually required for me to know for projects, and like I learn according to what those projects actually need. That's why we are agile. So we have the atmosphere is kind of set, and also you can see a lot of like back and forth, not a back and forth, but I'm just going back and forth inside the scene, and you can see the difference between the outside of the post-processing volume and the inside of the post-processing volume, and it just creates a lot of difference there. I also decided to add like a little bit of a spotlight on top of the car, so it will be much more in focus. It's cheap, it's a cheap way to create a focus, but it just does the job. The one level higher version of that will be me adding like a prop there to like the car, and just make it a little bit more like tactile in a sense. But I didn't do that for this case. I'm adding a little bit more like, these are mid and large assets that I'm actually covering the scene with, and it will, just like in the games, you shouldn't have obvious like blocks like the invisible walls. So you should have some elements there that are visible inside the scene that is actually blocking you from going outside, or you trying to go outside, because you shouldn't break that immersion of the player. So I'm just searching for volumetric clouds. Volumetric clouds are also great, and you can play around with the density very easily and their height, I think they're great for creating a sort of an atmosphere that we are actually looking for. I'm looking for something extremely like moody and cloudy. This video is actually sped up like 500 times. I think either 500 or 300. Since we already have the assets, I think this is a work that can take a day at most. But it took me a longer because I had a lot of troubleshooting, especially on the blueprint side, because I have zero knowledge on blueprints. You can see here right now I just added like a fog volume, and I set it to volumetric fog, and volumetric fog works in VR as well, which is great. Helps us establish the mood. I think this is way too foggy, so I'm just moving the fog way below and just moving the volume and playing around with the intensity a little bit. But sometimes it just becomes like too much, and I'm just playing around with the placement of it to establish the mood that I want. I think it's way too thick. I just wanted to help us like see the vehicle. The vehicle shouldn't be mixed with the background, and also we should still like see it in front of us. I'm setting the colors of the assets that I scattered around. They have instance materials, so it's kind of easy to adjust the colors. You can check the albedos and just play around with the measurements a little bit, add some blues on them, or like decrease the saturation. So both assets that you scatter around can actually match together. I will do that multiple times, you can see later. I'm still playing around with the density of the volume, the fog. I also placed the camera there, and I pinned it onto the viewport so I can see like how the scene actually looks like from start. I'm adding those to block the sun because it was way too evenly lit, especially after we add the fog. It just becomes even more evenly lit. So I had to emphasize the car furthermore in the scene. So I'm in the VR right now. Over there, I'm just walking around a little bit, just jumping around. I should actually like, slow these down, but fine. We'll jump back into the scene later anyways. So I'm just going inside the car, testing it out, going outside again with the experience. I decided to add some more spotlights, this time on the headlights and tail lights. Everything is for emphasizing the focal area. That's the most important thing in the scene. The other, all stuff, everything should be curated for this one purpose. I sometimes go back to the Blender file because as I go back to the scene, I see a lot of like seams on the mesh that has like this, creating a lot of like empty areas that you can see through, because my way of making cars in Blender is that I just separate the edges and just create the shot lines that way, and it can create a lot of like what's it called, like empty areas that you can see through. So I'm trying to manage them as I do like back and forth between Blender and Unreal. I'm also checking the animations here because what I want from the scene is that I want it to react to us. So as I get close to the car, it will activate and just the tires can go out like they can deploy and the car can rise up a little bit. So that was my main goal. So I'm currently just putting the animation together and just trying to find the right way to export it, and I'm very bad at it. It was the first time I'm actually trying to figure out how I can implement animation in Unreal. Eventually it worked out, but it was a painful process for me until I realized that I can actually pack the animation in GLTF and just directly put it there, because I don't have time to think about the modular like animation and like all that rigging and stuff. I only use it for specific purposes. And I was thinking, like, from what I experienced in VR experiences, is that having small details really sell. So I was thinking, like, since the headlights are just an emissive material in my scene before it was, I thought like maybe I can design the inside of the headlights and yeah, add some detail in there a little bit, just so we can have this little bit of kick in design. And that way I'm also fixing the geometry a little bit, because there was some areas that are open. I still have a lot of open areas in the model, but I just try to just get them as close as possible to the other faces, so they will not have this empty area that the light can just pass through, or you can see the other side of the vehicle through them. It's like a generic process of me modeling. I don't think there's much to explain over here. I'm just trying to fill up the inside of the headlights, but still try to give this like edgy look to it and still stay respectful to the aesthetics of the car. There's a lot of back and forth between Blender and Unreal here, and like I make the assets, I put some materials to it, then I realize that it's not actually looking that well, and some materials are not really in the places that I want them to be, so I readjust them, put them back into Unreal. So yeah, most of the time that I spent was, I think it was also for waiting for Unreal to import my model, although it's not that heavy of a model, but has an animation that is also packed, so it just creates a bit of a work for Unreal to calculate. There's currently only one material, which was like for now attached to an emissive, just so I can give this like I can trick that there's like a glass material also has some emissive coming through. It makes sense in Blender, but it was kind of tricky to do in Unreal, so, and like didn't have enough detail to look that crisp in Unreal, so I again went back to it and like separated some components and added different materials to them. Yeah, it's just jumping right now. But it's getting there, I'm also adding some thickness to the steering wheel, because I don't want it to clip in and like create some weird lights like sizzling through. Same as there as well, it was like way too like there was too much distance between two components. Also, it gives me another chance to think about the design a little bit and like consider some of the details that are considered as problematic when I observe them in first person. This is our scene right now. I think it looks crisp enough. And here comes the small details. I put two types of boulder, still again from bridge, and there's trees option, not an option, a feature in Unreal that you can pick the assets and scatter them around. Since we already have large assets and middle-sized assets, I was thinking like having smaller assets around, like scattered around, would actually like put this life into the scene. So I'm just scattering them in some necessary areas, especially around the car. Like think about it as a vehicle that just actually went there. So it might have actually moved some boulders or like some small rocks around. That's the storytelling aspect to it. I think such slow processes also help us to think about the story behind it. So yeah, it was helpful for me to think about like what's in there and like how I can emphasize the feeling and just make it more sense that we are there and the car is there, not just an empty showroom kind of, you know. And to point out, I didn't model any new assets for this. It was all the models that I have done for the keyframe. So I wanted to be as economical as possible while I was making this, because if I was trying to add like design and create more assets, it will create a lot more work. Right now what I only thought about was to put more weight on the interactivity part of it. Of course we can always like push this further, and as you can see, I'm here right now just playing around with the values and the colors of the rocks that are scattered around, so they can feel like they are part of the environment. Yeah, so we have the merged assets and merged asset animations there, merged keyframes. I'm in blueprints and I don't know how to explain it over here. We have the skeletal mesh, and I created a blueprint out of the static like skeletal mesh, and it also comes with a physical mesh which we will use for collisions, and we will also use the animation asset and merge them together in blueprint so they can move together. And this is for the interactivity part of it. So you put an overlay mesh, can I say like volume. So once you get into that volume, it will trigger the animation. So the first node that we are adding here is just for that. And then we attach a pawn, attach a capsule into our pawn, VR pawn, so that it can trigger the volume, so that it can trigger the animation. So here, right now it kind of works, and which is great. I should have sold this part as well, I forgot, sorry about that. But we will go back to this, go into the scene in a second. This was great, this worked perfectly and I'm very happy about it. Right now this part was kind of problematic because it was my stupidity and took me like a whole day to find out what was the issue with this. What I'm planning to do right now is to create hands and make like making the VR hands not click through the vehicle. So I'm adding physical meshes, some capsules, so they can create the collisions because they are skeletal meshes, because they are rigged. And I'm using those assets and put them into the VR pawn blueprint, and also adding physical constraints, because since it's physical assets fall onto the ground, and there should be a constraint that's just pulling them up on the VR headset when you spawn in, so they can be attached to something. So I'm adding 1, 2, 1, 2 one, two, one, two, one cube. So I just attached them as a constraint so they can stay like this. It was problematic because right hand worked, left hand didn't. Turns out there was a setting that I had to check in either hand, in one hand, and I forgot to do that, and it took me one day to understand like what was going on. So I went outside, I came back, and it took me a mere like 5 minutes, but like 5 minutes to just fix it quickly. So I was very happy about the outcome after a whole day. So yeah, I'm adding all the parts, especially to the right hand first, and just copy and paste them, and also name the components according to the hierarchy that I want to also reference in the physical mesh. Also, there are some settings that I have to go through, and some parts that I can actually explain because I went through them in a tutorial. If you guys want, I can send you guys the tutorials for now. So we are basically limiting our moves a little bit, just so they can not click through the collisions. Also, that includes how fast the hands will also teleport as you're teleporting inside the environment. So we have to play around with the speed of the hands as well, because you spawn and the hands also follow the camera. It's basically almost like a first-person camera. Alright, so we are back in the scene. I didn't speed this up. This is like real-time speed. Our hands work. Left hand also works, thank God. And we go through the scene a little bit. As you see over here, my hands cannot clip into the necessary components that actually have good encapsulation of the physical mesh, physics asset, and I can walk my hands through the car. The problem here is like I cannot get high quality collision mesh here because it crashes my scene and it doesn't work that as intended, because I think it's because my assets are quite exposed. It's not a closed mesh, and there's a lot of like sub the assets and stuff, so it's kind of it was too much of a work I think for me to troubleshoot. Also, you might see the antennas in the back. I actually did that for the keyframe from last week. I didn't do anything specific onto them. I just slapped them into the scene. They were FBX files. I didn't do any animation or sorts. So these are also from last week. I didn't put the pivot in the middle, and I was way too lazy to go back to Blender and readjust the buildings. I was thinking like they could be, the environment was missing some more components to in the far back that can add a lot more depth and life. So I have basically added those buildings from last week, and this is the glass material that I already had it on the car. It was way too heavy, and I basically waited like almost maybe 15 minutes for it to bake the lighting. And as I was doing that, I was actually walking around as well, just so I can show you guys how things are looking like. After this, I basically just used like a physical, like not physical, a solid material with Fresnel onto it, And also I wasn't really a fan of the glass material in far back. It's not being affected by the volume. I think it's because we are in VR and the material wasn't really optimized for that. I'll also walk you guys around the car a little bit in a second after these videos are done, so that you can see the materials that I assigned onto it. Yeah, this was the first try that I made. It was just an opacity material, low opacity material with some Fresnel on, but it was still giving me this high contrast even in far back in the scene, so it's not something that I want. I just want them to look like they're there, but I just don't want them to grab too much attention, so in the end that didn't work. So I went with something a lot more solid. So as you can see here, it just boils down into the art direction, not only the looks or how the materials are, because these are not that important, because in the end you will, as an audience, you're going to experience the assets, but you will not question how they are done. And right now I think those highlights are too much, or they're just taking too much attention. So I went back as I mentioned before. So it's just for now with some dark gray material. I think this is great. I just don't want anything else. I only thought that those buildings in the foreground were taking too much attention and they were vertical, so I just pushed them a little bit later. I'll move you guys around the environment a little bit. I'll be able to walk through. I've just set everything and put the materials, adjust them. Alright, so we are in the scene. I hope it works. I'm checking it, yeah, it works. And yeah, here we go. I'm not going to get up because it will create a problem while we are just recording, so I think it should be also fine. So our car is there, the scene is here, and we have the towers, we have the buildings in the back, and I also added this tent over here, which is also from last week. I didn't model the tent. I basically fed Tripo with the photo of the tent, so it will generate me a model of it. So it's it has a very crappy geo, but works. It's just a mid-ground asset anyways. It's not going to be intractable or anything. There's another building in the back, and we have another tower. I was thinking those towers as for electricity, for example, or some energy distribution and stuff. I was also thinking about some closer props nearby the car, but it was actually grabbing too much attention, and it was not really that necessary. It's not really needed to complicate the scene even more, and it will also create a lot more work, and then yeah, it will make it longer for us to produce this video for you guys. This windmill over there, it's also in the same sense how I imported the car over here. You just animate it, export GLTF, that's what I did, but you can also export FBX and stuff. I have to go through the workflow of it. I have to check how it actually works, but that's also the ideal case, that you can import the scene, and that's the mainstream way to import the animations and stuff into your scene. So I'm not really I really didn't want to create more issues for me to fix, and yeah, GLTF works and it works, so we move on. I put the skeletal mesh and I created a blueprint. I added the animation, and that's all. You put the blueprint into the scene, it just works. And we move closer to the car a bit more. I really like the whole scene over here is built for making the car stand out, but still make things look a little bit more like living, although there's no living people around. It's just, it's the atmosphere. And also, like, all those placements of the stuff are for making the car stand out. It's like, imagine like you're playing a game and you're walking around the scene, there's an establishing shot, and everything's built for supporting that focal point in the scene. So that's our goal in this. So no matter if you're in VR or making something 2D, you have to think about what's your focal point, what's the purpose of the scene, and like, why are we here, and how is this car over here? Maybe it was here after a race, or maybe they just discovered here, and maybe they came for a camp. I just keep hitting this microphone. Sorry. Yeah, that's the main goal. Let's get closer to the car. So it activated itself. Like, you can keep pushing this even further. Like, if I had time this week, if my weeks were 14 days, I will even think about the sound design of this. Maybe there could be some little bit of a hum coming from the car, and it would make some sound when we get closer to it. There's a lot more stuff that we can do about this. Maybe we can add some NPCs around with some like cycling animations. So they will be checking something there, like tablets and stuff. Maybe invest in the car. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. The asset quality is like, it might be lacking from some places, but I don't really care about it, because what matters for me right now is how consistent the scene is, like how things are matching together as the not the fidelity, but the visual sense, like how they're matching together. And since our car is the main focal point, one shouldn't be thinking about how low quality of rock looks actually, at least for the concept phase. I'm getting closer to the car. This over here, oof. Maybe I should get out a little bit. So yeah, I'm below the car, but it's like size is like quite manageable. I think it's coming around my shoulders normally. This over here is this material is coming from texture.com. Just downloaded it from there and just slapped it in Unreal. It actually works for the rubber texture. Where am I standing in the scene? I'm here. Okay. This over here is, as well as you can see, like my hands. I can't feel the tire, which is great. Like, just amplifies the immersion in the scene. It's awesome. Also, you can go down here, and as you can see, like this plastic material over here is like has metal flakes. It's a great industrial design material. I think it just gives this natural feeling and feels worn, but still looks high grade. So I thought it would make sense for me to use it. All of those emissives are there to showcase the energy coming to the car. I was thinking like maybe there could be a sort of like a soil that distributes the energy all around the map. So yeah, it's something to investigate further. Moving on to the other materials. These are coming from the fab, from automotive package. All those materials are coming from there, and they also have the options to increase the wearness of the material, dust, and maybe some imperfections, surface imperfections and stuff. This over here, cannot get too close. I think there's like a little bit of a collision over here, but I can get my head closer to the headlights. See, like there's some little bits of details. These little bits of like edges, bevels around the edges. They're selling um, the tactility, and just gives a lot of information about the scale of this stuff. I like the framing, like everything over here, like starting from the get-go. I think get-go is the place that you sell the stuff, but the next is how the car looks like from different angles, like how it actually feels like with everything in the scene. I think that's also very important. This material over here is also from the same package from Fab. It's also like I think I use the same material from the front part as well. With this bumper, it's the same material as in a different color. These are for the sensors and like for rear view mirrors. They're basically cameras. The one in the back is over here. This gloss material is for solar panels. I didn't really add the texture over there, but it would make sense to have it. I also added this little collision inside the car. Maybe we can get in. Let's sit. Does it work? Well, yeah. Took me a while to adjust this. Still is not great. I think I still look like a kid. But yeah, the best part of working in VR is that you can interact with the surfaces, like see them up close and see how things feel like when they're under your like palm, and like how things feel like you can see the material over here and see the seams and like the shot lines. I have to close this part, but you can see the dashboard and all this like textile and stuff. So it looks like it doesn't have any material assigned, but there's actually this material. Yeah, this whole thing is, I think it's great. Like it's great to experience like in the first hand. I don't know how it actually looks like in YouTube, but experiencing this as in the first hand is it's just great. It's different. It's not like the stuff that you see while you're working on it in Blender. Yeah, it's just I really have fun while working this, and you can save all those blueprints and stuff, and if you want to make a different scene, you can just change the car or like change some of the assets and just put everything back together, and you will have a different scene and different assets like built all together, and but in a different mood or a different environment. Like it's just very intuitive, and it's just very easy and accessible to use as well. So yeah, this is that from our this week's video. There's a lot of stuff that you can do about this. You can add to this. What's the limit is the time and budget. And time is the budget. So, all right, so this was it from this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the last 30 minutes-ish. I really enjoyed working on this piece, and yeah, I'm not here to give you guys any tutorials. There are better sources out there, but I'm here to give you guys a little bit of a step in to these features, and if it will give you some sort of even just a little bit of an encouragement to explore things further, it will make me very happy, and that's what matters, I think. Yeah, for the next week, I just don't know what to do actually. Maybe we can start working on a new scene, but for this week, I really enjoyed working on this, and I will take a little bit of a break today and just experience the scene a little bit more, and then we can move on to what we will do next. So I will not tell you guys what you should be expecting next week. So sorry about that. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please write me. If you have any tips, please also write. I would love to see that. I also love seeing your interest in the concepts, in the videos. So if you have anything, please let me know. Yeah, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Also, please turn off those what's it called, restrictions, so that you can see my videos. Just closing my eyes, so that you can see all my videos. And hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on next week. Ciao.